In contrast to the previous lesson 3.1, in 3.2 we're going to look at the entire ecosystem. In a more general manner, we're going to look at biomes. Now, what is a biome? A biome is a group of ecosystems with a similar temperature, climate, and plant communities. And the ecosystems on the land, which are what we're going to study, are groups onto biomes primarily under plant community. While there are two kinds of biomes, we're going to ignore aquatic biomes for now. Now let's learn some keywords. What is weather? Weather is the condition of the atmosphere at that certain place and at a certain time, while climate would be considered as the average weather or the long-term weather. And one important thing to understand these communities and ecosystems is to understand latitude and climate conditions. Now, what is latitude? Latitude is the distance from the equator in degrees, either towards the North Pole or towards the South Pole. Now, latitude will range from 0 to 90, being separated into 3 chunks, and it determines how much sunlight and heat is transferred to that area. So we'll take from 0 to 30 degrees, that's the tropical area, and that has the most heat and the most precipitation. 30 to 60 degrees, that's the temperate area, where it can both have heat and cold. And from 60 to 90 degrees, we have the polar area, which is very cold. And we have the same exact thing mirrored, but toward the South Pole. 0 to 30 south, tropical. 30 to 60 temperate. 60 to 90 polar. Another image here which would clarify it in a much easier manner, but do not take the degrees here as they are, just run them towards 30, 60, and 90. As you could see, the polar area has the coldest temperatures. Temperate zone has a range from cold to warmish, and tropical zone is the hottest. Now, the main two manners of deciding an ecosystem using a graph would be the latitude and the climate. The climate here will be measured in the amount of precipitation and the temperature of the ecosystem, as you could see in this graph. Now, the climate, as we previously mentioned, is just the average weather, which includes temperature and precipitation. While weather is just going to be the condition of the atmosphere over a short period of time, climate is the long-term weather, if you say. And the biomes are primarily classified by their climate, as we could see here, and their plant. Big biomes or major biomes that we're going to run over later on could also be recognized using their temperature, precipitation, climate, as we said, or their animals, which is something we cannot say for every biome. As you could see here from this graph, if you were told a biome that has a temperature range from 20 to 30 Celsius, you could say desert, savanna, seasonal forest, or rainforest. But using both temperature and precipitation, if I told you, it gets on average 400 centimeters of rain, and its temperature can range between 20 and 30 Celsius. It directly leads you to the tropical rainforest. But if I were to say 10 to 20 Celsius and gets around 250 cubic centimeters of rain, you'd say temperate rainforest. And that is one way to distribute biomes over a graph. Two things we already mentioned that you should note: classified according to characteristics of plant, and classified by climate, which is temperature and precipitation. Animals, if it's a major biome. Now, speaking of major biomes, let's start taking the 9 major biomes we're going to take. The very first one, tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest is characterized by being hot and wet year-round because it's by the equator. Has two parts to its plant system. It has a canopy and an understory. A canopy consists of the tall trees, ferns, and orchids, which live higher up. And the understory consists of short trees, mostly and shrubs, which live lower down. And it has elephants, cobras, snakes, and tigers. Now the snake is not very visible here, but you could also consider the cobra like snake, but not exactly. They are separate. On to our second biome, the tropical seasonal dry forest. Tropical seasonal dry forest is like the rainforest, but rather than always having rain, it will occasionally have wet season and sometimes not. It is always warm, just like the rainforest, and it also hosts tigers. Just unlike the rainforest, it hosts also monkeys, koalas, which are similar to monkeys, rabbits, and spiders. The plants we have here are deciduous and evergreen trees and mosses. What do deciduous and evergreen mean? Deciduous means that at winter their leaves fall off, so they occasionally lose leaves and then regain them, while the evergreen means that they are always green throughout the whole year. We already know that mosses are just non-vascular plants. Now on to the tropical grassland, also known as savanna. Like our previous biomes, since it's a tropical biome, any biome that says tropical is going to be warm. It has seasonal rainfall, like our previous biome, but it does have the least precipitation out of all the tropical biomes. Now, plants here, we do not have very tall plants at all. We have grasses and some trees scattered around, and the animals feature rhinos, elephants, giraffes, and zebras. The desert, which is the biome we live in, has only two kinds of plants you need to know of, cacti and Joshua trees. Now, the desert is unique as it varies between the extremes. At night, the desert will be very cold. At daytime, it will be very hot, which is a very unique characteristic. So you could note as the extreme biome. It will have low precipitation overall compared to most biomes, and it features a surprisingly diverse amount of animals in its lizards, bobcats, desert toad, and desert toad. Now, bobcats here can be seen both in desert and in cold biomes, but they're more common in cold biomes rather than desert. Also, one last thing, you must not mistake the desert toad for a frog. A desert toad can survive with much less water than a frog. On to our next biome, temperate grassland. They are in the temperate zone, so as you can tell, they have warm and hot summers, but they also have cold winters. Their rainfall is considered medium or moderate. For the most part, they're composed of prairies and steppes. They have nutrient-rich soils. They foster grasses, herbs, and flowers. Notice that these are their main plants, but they do have the ability to have trees. So if you are asked which biome is without trees, it's not this one. It's the taiga biome, or not taiga, tundra we're going to go over later. Now they have a wide variety of animals such as wolves, coyotes, which are similar looking to wolves, horses, which you could not see here, snakes, spiders, and bison. Onto the temperate woodland, also known as the shrublands. They have hot and dry summers while also having a cool, moist winters. You'll notice that's a trend with temperate. Well, they will both have a hot summer but also a cool winter. Their plants consist of entirely evergreen shrubs and corn oak. Animals will include things such as the jackrabbit, not just rabbits, but jackrabbits, birds, bobcats, as we already mentioned, deserts have bobcats, but they are more abundant here on this colder biome, and snakes. On to the temperate. The temperate forest will have cold to medium winters, and they will have warm summers, but not very hot. And they have precipitation all year, just like their rainforest. Their plants consist of shrubs, maple trees, and oak. While they do have deciduous trees, but as we mentioned, they do shed their leaves during the winter, and leaves become nutrients to the soil. As we already mentioned in the cycles lesson, where leaves here would lead to the nitrogen cycle continuing, so on and so forth. Animals include squirrels, rabbits, deer, and frogs. Onto the Boreal Forest, which also has two bonus names, taiga or northern coniferous forest. They have long, cold, and dry winters, while having short yet even then moist summers. They have deciduous trees, as you can see here. The trees have lost their leaves. They have some small shrubs, and they have spruce. Animals in this biome include birds, moose, deer, and wolverine. Onto tundra, which could also be called the polar biome. It has a permafrost layer, meaning that there is a layer where it has ice all year round. The ice never melts. The summers are soggy because of this. Because the ice, some of it will melt during the summer, and it will stay cold and dark most of the year, which tells us that most of the time, because of how it is rotated at either pole, it does not get a normal 24-hour day and night cycle. The plants that can survive here are short grasses and shrubs, certain legumes which have nitrogen-fixing bacteria, such as other plants mentioned, and this is the only biome not to feature trees. Animals that are capable of surviving in this biome are polar bears, Arctic hares, which are similar to rabbits, and caribou. Now, this biome is also sometimes known as the cold desert or the snow desert, because it is very much like a desert, but focused on. And that is it. Wish you the best of luck, and God bless you, gentlemen, with your final.
That'll be it for lesson 3.2, Terrestrial Biomes. If you have any questions or want to ask anything at all, you can ask it down below in the comment section or in the server. If you want more videos like these, you can find them in the server, and yeah, enjoy them.